Citizens United was a decision in January 2010 that took these two really terrible ideas and it merged them together. And it said money equals speech and corporations are people. And it really put a for sale sign on our democracy, right? And it's where we saw the rise of super PACs and all this unlimited and undisclosed money. And what we've seen is that now the entire system is really bent toward the money. The policy outcomes are bent toward the money. We see gridlock and dysfunction on all of our most pressing policy priorities. I think everybody wants there to be less money in our politics. And the question is, how do we do it?
We have to have super PACs because how can I compete with these two machines that have an institution that, go pass a disclosure bill. Okay, well, the money's going to find its way to politics. Okay, how's it going to find it? Well, the only vehicles left are the Democratic and Republican Party, and they then become de facto laundromat in our political process.
We just won our initiative in Maine. We got 74.9% of the vote. We got the most votes, more than 600,000 votes. That's more votes than any politician has ever gotten in the history of the state of Maine. All voted to limit super PACs.
Okay, welcome back, everybody, to the Independent Voter Podcast. We have a very special guest today. We talk a lot about election reform, but related there is one of the big issues. We just sent a big survey in California. I think among independent voters, like 95% are like, we need some kind of campaign finance reform. We all know money in politics is an issue. Question is, how do we solve it? Which is why we have a very special guest today. Tiffany Muller is here from End Citizens United. Tiffany, welcome. Why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners and let us know what you've been working on?
Well, thanks so much for having me on today. It's such a joy to be here with both of you. Hi, everyone. I am Tiffany Muller. I am the president of End Citizens United. And we are a people-powered organization with about 4 million members across our country. And we work on getting money out of politics and restoring power back to the people. And we believe that we need to get this corruption out of our government. And so that is what we do every day, is try to make sure we have the right people in office so we can get the right reforms passed.
That's really great, Tiffany. It's great to see you, and thank you for all of your work as a pro-democracy activist who's trying to make the world a better place and get the money out of the politics and out of our political system. I'm really curious, what first drew you to this work?
Yeah, that is a great question. I feel like my career has always been about being a voice or fighting for those who don't have voice in our system, right? So I actually started off as a social worker doing domestic violence and sexual assault work.
Oh, wow.
Very, very different, but at the same time, kind of the same, right? It is about a group of people who didn't have enough voice in the systems that were supposed to be protecting them. So that was also where I first started to understand the connection between the election outcomes and the policies that we could get passed on the state level. I then went to work on LGBTQ rights. I was actually the first LGBTQ open public official in the state of Kansas. I was on the Topeka City Council.
And you were on the Topeka, an elected official. That's so cool, Tiffany.
I was at
Good
the
for
ripe
you.
old age of 25 or something.
Even better. That's so
which
cool.
was obviously just yesterday, right? And it was about, I was working to expand anti-discrimination protections at the time.
Yep.
And how could we actually change the law to actually be able to better protect our community? And then that led me to working for Governor Sebelius in Kansas. And I got to see all of the impacts every single day that her administration had on people's lives. And that's how I got started in this. And then I was a chief of staff on the Hill for 2 members of Congress. And here at End Citizens United, I feel like I take a little bit of pieces of all of those and put them together into this effort, which is, again, really about who gets to have a say in our democracy, right? Who gets to have power and voice in our democracy. And we think it should be the people, not just the folks who can write the biggest checks.
Yeah. So let's get into some of the mechanics stuff and everything of actually, okay, how do we do this? So what issues, what is there legislation? Is there illegal? Cara's been working on a lawsuit that to bring the right question to the Supreme Court, right? Because you can't just turn Citizens United. You got to bring another question to the court, right? That in effect overturns it. So what is it you're working on? Is there specific legislation? I want to get into the the details, right? We all want a
I
better
love
democracy.
details.
We all want, to get money out of politics, but we're going to have more than half of our listeners. They're going to be suspicious and say, "Well, what are you really doing?" Right? So tell us the detail.
Yeah. Well, first, for all your listeners who maybe don't read Supreme Court cases for fun, Citizens United was a decision in January 2010 that took these two really terrible ideas and it merged them together. And it said money equals speech and corporations are people. And it really put a for sale sign on our democracy, right? And it's where we saw the rise of super PACs and all this unlimited and undisclosed money. And what we've seen is that now the entire system is really bent toward the money. The policy outcomes are bent toward the money. We see gridlock and dysfunction on all of our most pressing policy priorities. So I actually agree with you. I think everybody wants there to be less money in our politics. And the question is, how do we do it?
Now, we just
And so
won our initiative, Tiffany, in Maine. We got 74.9% of the vote. We
that's
got the
right.
most votes, more than 600,000 votes. That's more votes than any politician has ever gotten in the history of the state of Maine. Any initiative, literally, when I go to the market, I look around and I can say like 3 out of 4 of these people in the market right now, maybe even 4 out of 4, all voted to
Yeah.
limit super PACs.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter whether they are Republican voters, independent voters, Democratic voters.
Totally. It's a
They
nonpartisan.
and it is nonpartisan
Yep.
out in the American electorate. And that's what we see too. But
Yeah.
on Capitol Hill right now, sadly, that's not how it's playing out. Right. And so there are
Not
a
at
few
all.
ways. Not at all. Not at all. There are ways to address this. We can pass a constitutional amendment. That is hard, and it is going to take us time to be able to do that. We can get the Supreme Court to overturn itself, which, Cara, you are working on.
Well, no, not exactly, because we're not trying to get them to overturn Citizens United. We're
True.
trying to get them to look at free speech now versus the FEC.
True.
But
the rise of super PACs. Yes.
the rise of super
Yes.
PACs. But
Yes.
as sort of like the next best thing, if we can't get a constitutional amendment because it's hard, what's
Yeah.
something else we can do? Because Chad and I, and so many of us, and probably you in this space, it's like we want to be activists, but we also want to like actually try to do things that will move the needle
Yeah, that's kind of getting my
somehow. And that's kind of what your point is, right, Chad? And so
yeah,
that's
like how is it more than a talking point, right? Like, a lot of people are just, I think, voters, we see it, they're just exhausted with I'm the pro-democracy candidate, or I'm the
Sure.
one that's
I'm not
supports this,
exhausted with
right?
that. I want
Yeah,
all
yeah,
our candidates to be.
but it's not, I shouldn't say exhausted. They're suspicious of it, right?
They're
like,
cynical. They're
that's just a
skeptical.
talking point. Like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? Is there a piece of legislation? I mean, Tiffany,
Yes.
I'm going to ask you the hard questions. Like, if you go on the Citizens United website and the candidates you support, it looks to me like a person asking a question would go, this is just a front to elect a bunch of Democrats. Because I don't know, maybe I missed them, but I didn't see any
I don't
Republicans.
think that's what it is. It's just that there's
No, I
more
know.
Democrats who
That's why
are
I'm giving
on the
you,
side of
giving
the
you the,
angels.
I'm not saying it is. I'm saying give it the platform. Answer the question to the person who goes there and says, this is just a bunch of Democrats. Like, if this was a nonpartisan effort, there'd be some Republicans on here. What do you say to that?
Well, I love hard questions. So you are not going to scare me away.
Mhm.
Like, there's no worry about that. Look, who is in office matters. And right now, there is a difference between the two parties and who is willing to address these issues. And there's a whole lot we could get past tomorrow with a simple vote of Congress if they would just put it on the floor and vote on it.
But
So,
we know
example, but right now,
not happening.
the Republican Party has doubled down on taking the big money, taking the dark money, trying to push voter suppression. And right now, they actually won't co-sponsor any of these efforts. Now, I will say one difference. There are Republicans on the stock trading ban, which we push for every day. We believe that if you are a member of Congress, you shouldn't be trading and selling stocks because you're supposed to be there for the public good, not lining your own pocket with insider information. But for the
So I
most
just
part,
did a big story on this yesterday about the stock trading ban.
Yeah.
And, yes, there's 170 people on one discharge petition and there's 60 people on another discharge petition. And, there's all these different vehicles to get it done, but they don't ever meet the threshold. Yet everybody gets to walk around saying, like, I'm doing this. I don't think, but it doesn't pass. The gridlock between the two parties literally keeps these issues that all the American people support from happening. And it's like this breakdown, Tiffany, in our politics, where even things that, like, of course they shouldn't trade stocks. Of course they shouldn't be in all those meetings, getting all those briefings. They shouldn't be in charge of regulating the EPA and the FCC and the SEC and be able to influence with money the politics, either on the campaign finance side, but they also shouldn't be able to themselves make decisions whether or not, like, I'm going to buy this defense contractor stock, for example, and then I'm going to vote in favor of a $900 billion defense budget. And it's going to benefit me personally from doing that. Like,
I mean, look, the only reason we're having to go discharge petition on this right now is that Mike Johnson has refused to bring this up for a vote on the House floor, right?
But there's two discharge petitions, as you know.
There are.
One of them has only Democrats on it.
Because that one actually would apply to not just members of Congress, but actually would apply to the executive branch as well, because we are seeing the abuses of power, right?
Yes.
So we do believe that there needs to be a stock trading ban that actually does encompass more than just members of Congress.
But
look,
would you
here's the
take
other
it?
thing.
But why wouldn't all the Democrats get on the one that has the Republicans that has the chance of getting to 218, even though it excludes the president and the vice president? Like, why wouldn't, if they really wanted to do it?
I actually disagree that we don't have a shot to get to 218 on the one that has 170. I think we do have a shot to get to 218 on that one. I think that there are a number of Republicans who believe that we should pass this and that it should be broad. And so we will see. It just started, right? That discharge petition was just filed 2 weeks ago.
Like a month ago, I think.
They weren't in session for a couple of those. So I think it's only been a few weeks that they've actually been there. Look, here's the other thing. You asked, what can we get done? We could make sure there was full disclosure and transparency on all election spending with a simple vote of Congress. And yet every single time it has been up for a vote since 2012, it's been filibustered and blocked. But we deserve transparency to know who's trying to influence our election outcomes.
Let's go into the details, right? Because I'm not arguing with you, right? But let's just go to the reality of how elections work. So, for example, there's a viewpoint. This is an independent voter project. Independent candidate.
Independent voters love disclosure and transparency. In case you're wondering,
right. But it's not. That's my point. Is that yes, you can say this up here, but how do things really work? Okay, I'm a candidate that wants to run for office. How many PACs, committees, everything that you can have, that money gets sent to the party, and it's the Democratic Party that spends a lot of money supporting a candidate, or the Republican Party supporting a lot of money in the candidate through 15 million different committees with contribution limits that are $1 million and this and that. And then there's a perspective that maybe ought to be at least listened to of, well, we have to have super PACs because how can I compete with these two machines that have an institution that, go pass a disclosure bill? Okay, well, the money's going to find its way to politics. Okay, how's it going to find it? Well, the only vehicles left are the Democratic and Republican Party, and they then become de facto laundromats, right, in our political process. So that's really how it works. So when you say, "Oh,
that's not really how it works."
Of course it is.
No. Not entirely. And so, like, if we're going to have this debate, like, fine, we can have this debate. Number one, I was saying, just make sure everything that's being spent in our elections is disclosed and transparent so you know where it's coming from. Because right now, we actually see foreign money getting into our elections. We see foreign governments settling in our elections.
In Maine, it's totally allowed, by the way. The courts are fine with that.
Right.
I can't believe it, but they are.
What you just asked about had nothing to do with disclosure and transparency. I'm saying that disclosure and transparency, which is a main tool in rooting out corruption, rooting out straw donor schemes, rooting out foreign interference, should be the very least we could all do. I mean, look, Antonin Scalia believed in disclosure and transparency. But this should be the very least we can do.
Just let me respond to that, because I'm not arguing with you. I actually I believe you. I'm saying, but the way it really works, big money's not stupid. right?
Big
So my
money
point,
isn't stupid,
you
but we
can,
fought it
right?
before and we have actually been able to see it get some of that money out of the system. We have had these battles in our country before. We
Mm,
have gotten through them and actually given power back to the people through passing real reforms. I mean,
mm.
we have seen this in states too. When you actually pass some of these, including disclosure and transparency, when you actually pass some of these reforms, some of this money actually gets out of the system. There are ways we can
Not
do
enough
this,
though, Tiffany. I mean, come on. It's
but they want you
completely
to
out of
feel
control.
it is completely out of control. I work on this every day. It is
Right.
a big mountain to climb. And they want you to feel hopeless because if they can make you feel hopeless, then they get to continue buying and rigging the
Well,
system.
so let's take another example. I mean, and I saw another thing pops up the other day. I always see like this Courier News and this and that, right? And you find out, okay, this is attached to some organization, right-leaning organization in LA, and then you find another thing. So my point being, okay, when that money then what's the line when things don't become political money, right? Independent Voter Project has a news website. We're very careful not to endorse. We're very careful not to do advocate and like respect the bounds of journal. This is journalism. This is information. Make up your own mind. But in reality, so many, not just the major news outlets, but local outlets have really become voices for each side of the political aisle, right? We know there's political value in getting a story with a bad headline about an opponent. And let's not kid ourselves, it happens all the time. So you can have all the transparency rules you want on political financing. How do you handle that? That money isn't going to get out of the political system. It's going to go put it in somewhere that's not characterized as political money. And
It
let's be
kind of
honest,
does. It
we
does
don't.
keep happening that way a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like every time you plug a hole, then there's another hole,
Yeah.
another
What
leak
about get out
springs.
the vote? How many get out the vote operations are nonpartisan operations, right? A ton of money goes in, but they're targeted in areas where Republicans or Democrats know they're going to get more of their voters to get out to vote. There's like an example of a totally non-political expenditure that we all know how the system really works, right? So how do you address that? Like if you're just focusing on the quote unquote political spending, there's whole institutions that have been developed that, they're news, they're nonpartisan, get out the quote unquote nonpartisans. How do you address that?
Yeah, it's actually in the bill that I was just talking about. Literally, those definitions are in that bill. And so I read, there are ways to address it. And I think that's, again, I just want to go back to, yeah, this is a really hard problem. This is a big societal problem. And I believe the only thing more powerful than the money in our politics are the people in our
Well,
country
that's
and the people rising up.
100%. Tiffany, you have our full buy off on that concept for sure. It's the only way to
Yeah.
basically battle against the politicians who will not, enact what the people want. Right? They
Well,
are
I
they
mean,
are
they're living in a
obstructing.
broken system. They are
They are living in a
thriving
broken
in a
system.
broken
They
system.
spend how much time? 7 out of every 10 days on the telephone trying to raise money. In
Right.
Congress every 2 years, in the US Senate every 6 years, governors every 4 years. They spend so much time raising money. They do not spend as much time figuring out the best ideas that are going to help our country.
Mhm.
No, no, sadly, when a member of Congress, when a member of the House is elected, and especially if they're in a competitive district and they come to Washington, the very first thing they're told isn't like, okay, what committee assignments do you want, or what policy do you want to work on, or here, go meet your colleagues. It is, you need to do at least 30 hours of call time every single week for your reelection. And that takes them away from doing the job, the actual job, the legislation, the constituent meetings, the spending time in committee hearings, all of the things that used to actually make this place run. And so it is absolutely a huge problem. And every time we don't address it, every time we don't fix it, every time we don't pass these reforms, the American people, the independent voters in particular, get more and more frustrated and lose more faith and more trust in the system, and they look for extremes, and it's a real problem for our democracy as a whole.
I just feel like it's not all the Republicans' fault, though, Tiffany. It's
I
not. It's like
No,
it really
I didn't
is.
say that.
Like I know you didn't. I know, but I think that when I looked at it, like the granular at the 2 discharge petitions, for example, like one of them is I think put forward by Anna Paulina Luna, who I think is sort of a far right MAGA Republican. I could be wrong about that, but I think, and so she was able to get a certain number of Democrats to join with her on that petition, and also other Republicans to join with her. And I think you're right that it does carve out, that makes sense. It carves out the president. But if enough Republicans, I mean, Democrats would cross over, maybe they could get that passed. Maybe, and that at least for themselves, at least for the Congress. So it's not going to stop Donald Trump. I mean, what is going to stop Donald Trump? He just took, you know, it's a level of corruption that's beyond comprehension. But
Yeah.
if
I
they
mean,
really believe in the stock trading ban, if Kirsten Gillibrand and the senator from I forget her name, but the senator from Florida, the Republican senator from Florida, is on a bill with Gillibrand to get the stock trading ban. It's the same. It's the one that has the president, but actually she dropped off of it because of that. So if Congress really wants to do this, if the Democratic Party and the leadership of the Democratic Party and the leadership of the Republican Party really wanted to do it, or even if I think that Hakeem Jeffries might even be on that bill, on one of the discharge petitions.
he is. He is. He definitely is. Look,
But he's on the one with the only Democrats, right?
look, there are some problems with the discharge petition that Representative Luna has put forward,
Please tell
including
me about that. I'm so curious.
divestment and when divestment would kick in. Obviously, we do believe that the stock trading ban should apply to more than just the members of Congress. I also believe that it doesn't go as far, and there is like more time that they would have to hold on to it for their stocks for much longer under that one. I can get you all of the details, but there are some real shortcomings around that one.
But do you see how you think that you're going to be able to get to 218?
I mean, I actually do think that again, there's 170 on it. They have been working with Republicans on these efforts. Mike Johnson has continued to say that he won't bring anything up for a vote. If he wanted to bring up the
I know.
Chip Roy Magaziner bill that had been worked on for years, he could bring it up tomorrow. He controls the House floor.
That is basically, isn't that really what the Hakeem Jeffries discharge petition is, that Magaziner?
It is basically
Chip Roy bill, but Chip Roy dropped out?
With the executive added onto it. If John Thune wanted to bring up the stock trading bill on the Senate, he controls the Senate floor. So I reject the idea that this is all on Democrats to figure out.
I'm not saying it's all on Democrats, but I am saying that if they
don't control either house of Congress at the moment.
But they could cross over and get on that Anna Paulina Luna bill, which already has 70 people on it.
That's one of the things I think voters look at, and look at, remember Bill Clinton, forget the college cousins today, Bill Clinton back in the day, it was like he worked with a lot of the Republicans to go and get a bunch of stuff passed, and when they were in the majority, people wanted to go like, why can't we do that anymore? But I know we're running up on time. Like, this is a very complex issue. Thank you. I hope you understand, like, we just want to get to the bottom. So you're somebody watch. Remember, we have Democrats, Republicans, Independent. We're the small I Independent Voter Project. So if they want to get more involved, I mean, I love that you you get a question and give the answer, like address the answer. I think on the show, some people get worried about, we're going to get a partner. If you're asking a question, you must be on the other side. It's like, no, people are suspicious. We want to know the details, right? So yeah. I appreciate you battling and just say, hey,
let's go.
Give me the hard questions. So how do we get involved? Where do voters go to get involved in your organization?
And also, I appreciate it. Before you say that, Tiffany, I just want to say it's 4 million people that you've been able to gather behind this. It's extraordinary. Like, congratulations. Thanks. I know you've been at it a long time. I know it's hard. I know it's granular. I know what you're up against. And
thank you.
Just kudos to you for 4 million people as part of this. That's a lot of people.
Well, come be a part of it. Go to endcitizensunited.org, endcitizensunited.org, and check it out. And we would love to have you in the fight with us. This fight is not going to end overnight, but it is an important one, and it's all about giving power back to the people.
No, trust me, Tiffany, I am in the fight. I was the chairperson of the campaign to end super PACs.
And congratulations. It's such a big deal.
Well, we won, but now it's in the courts, which is where we need to be, right?
We got our voting rights timelines like a 20, 30-year time. Unfortunately, these things take a long time, but thankfully we have people like Tiffany Muller, who is, wakes up
sticking with it.
and makes this something that they're passionate about. So, well, thanks everybody. I know this is a big issue for a lot of independent voters. So, hope you all listen to the show, get involved in organizations like End Citizens United, and come back and listen to us soon.
Thank you so much, Tiffany.
Thank you so much for having me on. Can't wait to come back.
Okay,
Bye.
good. Yes, we'd love it.
This is the Independent Voter Podcast, sponsored by the Independent Voter Project and produced by OLAS Media. Remember, you can always find the Independent Voter Podcast or the How It Really Works series at ivn.us. Follow and subscribe at olasmedia.com.
OLAS Media.